What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff, arm yourselves, life stuff. Considering recent events, I put together another list of nonprofit business management skills. We're calling it corporate skills for the video title, but one of the reasons I like this job and the skills I learned doing it, the lessons I learned doing it, is there's huge carryover anywhere you will be dealing with people and doing things, which is everywhere. We'll go down the list and talk about them and probably other stuff too. First one is one we've talked about a number of times, but you can't overstate it. You need a personal work log. I have mine loaded into a tablet with the file on OneDrive password locked. And you can get cheap, shitty little Android tablets for $50 to $60. It's a worthwhile investment. It's saved my ass more times than I can count. The ability to look up who, what, your ideas on why, when, and so on. And another thing I don't think I've touched on in terms of your personal work log is you need to swear. You need to give people shitty names and call them those shitty names in your work log consistently. And you need to do that for a few reasons. One, writing horrible things makes you feel better. Two, you'd be amazed the power giving someone a shitty nickname gives you over them, or applies to your ability to deal with them. If you give someone a shitty nickname, you're less likely to forget why you gave them that shitty nickname. It keeps the negativity associated with them always fresh. And whenever they do something else shitty, it's like you've created an informal thoughts and feelings file, and every time a new thing happens, you will write it down, but without your even needing to write it down, those thoughts, those feelings get filed into the file of their shitty nickname. And these nicknames aren't that hard to come up with. I've noticed people are very pattern oriented. If you've seen them be shitty once in a certain way, you'll see them be shitty again in that same way, and that's the way most of the time, or one of the ways they will be shitty. That is their shittiness identifier. You're dealing with a dude, he lies a lot. You start to call him Lying Larry or Fibber. There isn't a clear crystalline way this works, but it aligns everything. You know who the person is, you know what to expect from them, and it's always on the mind. It also makes searching them up easier in your personal work log, like Sphinxy. That also gives you a layer of protection in case your files are compromised. Not a huge level of protection, but it's better than nothing. And the goal in all this with your personal work log is to cover your ass so you know for sure, not guessing, well, that was a while ago, maybe. No, you know for certain. Also, it takes some of the strain off your brain. It's very difficult to remember everything. And you will reach a point, it'll take effort to remember some things. It's not worth expending the effort when you can jot it down and have it. And I think there's a difference between memory and recall. It's easier to recall something if you've already written it down. That's something I learned in university. Now, the next one. You need to keep a running log of people you meet. I don't keep this in the personal work log. I put together my own little sheet for this. And I keep it right next to my desk. You're putting in their name, where they're from, the day you met them, in what capacity you know them, i.e., for me, this is another nonprofit person, or this is a client or potential client, donor or potential donor, so on. And then finally, some detail about their life that sticks out to you. And that could be anything. Once again, memory is the goal. This is some additional scaffolding for your poor, poor brain. I've noticed people get very angry when you don't remember them, or you get their name wrong, or you get details twisted. No forgiveness for the fact you meet a lot of people, you deal with a lot of people who are almost certainly more important than this cocksucker. It's another method of avoiding that mistake and aiding in recall while alleviating the pressure of memory. And I should reiterate, most of the stuff we're talking about here, there's crossover in all fields, and much of this stuff I've started doing in daily life. My off time feels corporate now. And that's not a bad thing, because life is overwhelming, and it only gets more overwhelming. And the more tools you have at your disposal, even during your downtime, the better you'll be able to weather the storm. You think it's bad now, it will get so much worse, and so quickly. You need every tool you can muster right now. Now, I put together this list yesterday, but this is one I thought about today, because you learn the most when people do what people do. If you don't have a formal baseline right now, get one. If you have one, you better keep it up at all times. And when I say that, I don't just mean lapses. I also mean lower degrees. You need to avoid lower degrees. You need to ensure your baseline either is a baseline you can keep up at all times, or you will keep up at all times. There's an open door policy with my office. Well, someone came in, didn't need help with anything. All they wanted, or all she wanted to do, was talk about the history of the organization. Because that's another thing. Now that we've moved, now that we have a funding plan, now everybody's interested. Now everybody wants to call back on the history. Like I said, this is a Frankenstein organization. It's died and revived multiple times. People who were involved 30 years ago think, because they were involved 30 years ago, and not at all since. Our location has actually been at the same place this entire time. I mean, it's gotten shittier, stuff grew up around it, but now people want to be involved because they recognize this as the moral grandstanding, historical ego-stroking hotness. And I'm already overloaded with work. I'm being polite with her, but she's doing so many things that are obnoxious and is stepping on some of my pet peeves. I don't like people who interrupt. That's a major pet peeve of mine. But she was doing what people do, which is they'll ask a question and then they'll interrupt you and answer it themselves. Usually getting things wrong that they will be angry if you correct them on. And then that becomes a whole separate thing. And she keeps doing this while I'm trying to work. And I don't lapse in my formal baseline. I don't snap, I don't say anything. What happens is my politeness level begins to dwindle. You've been here in my space for an hour now. And I think that's something you see in nonprofits, or is more common. I mean, it's not, I don't imagine it's common in business, for-profit, corporate settings, but it's another thing. Every nonprofit I've been to, the director, someone will show up and then just start talking to them. Oh, and that's another thing. That's what kicked off the decline, was she was complaining about this room not having any music in it for people. Well, I don't put music in this room because any music choice I choose someone will be pissed about, will take issue with. So she was complaining about that, and then she says, well, you should put in this type of music. And it's an obnoxious form of music. And then she goes, but you shouldn't put in any obnoxious or aggressive music because I hate obnoxious, aggressive music. The music will chase you out of there. Choosing music I don't like is very unprofessional. Another one of these fucking people who feel compelled to impose their opinions and desires on you and thereby on other people with zero self-awareness or consideration. Anyway, I moved into ending the conversation mode. And then, when the conversation ends, I find out a few people from my organization are very good friends with this woman, and she is extraordinarily wealthy. I.e., in this new funding drive we're setting up, she's one of the people we need to approach. Now, maybe someone else can approach her, but I know again, I wasn't impolite, but what I'm realizing is everyone has a different standard of what they think is and isn't polite, and it's fucking retarded. I'm sure to her, my declining level of politeness was an offense, and she acted offended, and that's a huge problem. Big fucking problem. This all to say, it doesn't matter what's going on, or even, unless it's super vital, what it's costing you. When you're dealing with people, stay on your formal baseline the entire time. Because I think watching a decline from a level of politeness to a lower level of politeness is or will offend people more than outright but consistent rudeness or abrasiveness. Because they can smell that you don't like them. It doesn't matter how you're interacting. It's all about what people think or how people feel you are treating them. That's why the baseline is so important. The consistency. You get to that point and you make no change in any direction so people can't read you. And it's been a while since we've done or talked about formal baselines. A formal baseline is a level or an emotional state you can stick to with all people at all times. And I'm finding it's best if you can build your formal baseline around some professional principles, some precepts. My two are, I'm here to help you, and let's get the job done. I think I need to add also, I am here to make you feel comfortable. These principles aren't just mission statements, which they are, but they're also talking points you can fall back on whenever a conversation isn't going the way you want it to go. They're like little jump pads that give you momentum when you need them. Because in each of these principles is a goal. Stick to your formal baseline. Another one I use is keeping a list, a spreadsheet, printed spreadsheet of daily tasks. I don't know why this is, but in my experience, you forget the stuff you're supposed to do every day more often than you think you would. It's nice to have something to look at and cross out. And in Excel, you can write a date in one column and then fill an entire year of dates all the way to the bottom. Do that with an entire line of daily tasks, and then each day, as you accomplish them, you cross them out. That helps keep things straight in your mind. It also looks good. It makes you look productive and organized. We'll get to appearances, but appearances are so unbelievably important. Next one is filing is key. We've talked about this before, but the additional layer here is file even things you don't think you'll need. Even if you need to make one file, dedicate one folder only to alt shit, miscellaneous shit, don't throw things away. Paperwork, I mean. It seems like always the thing you need most in a pinch is that thing you threw away almost a year ago because you thought you would never ever need it. Just keep everything. Save yourself the trouble. The next one, another way you should be using your personal log, is gossip and drama. Put it all in there. And this is not just for keeping your memory straight. And I just love people. They act like I'm above drama. I just don't even get involved in that stuff. If you aren't, you don't, maybe you don't necessarily need to be involved in the drama. It's probably better if you aren't. One, you will be drawn into drama, pulled kicking and screaming into drama, whether you like it or not. You will have drama imposed upon you. If you're in a position you can just not deal with drama, consider yourself fortunate. And then also, it's important for strategizing. When you're dealing with lots of people, you'll notice out of nowhere some days they will act weird. And you will think maybe they're just having a bad day or something happened, and maybe if you're feeling very kind, you'll check on them. They aren't having a bad day. Or if they are, then it's not a check on them and help them resolve it or help them feel better variety of that variety. Uncharacteristic behavior, especially when it's abrupt, is almost always drama. Even when they say it's something else, and maybe they're even convincing about it, it's never that, or maybe that's part of it, but the thing that's really bothering them, always, will be drama. And if you don't know what's going on, it's because you aren't privy to it, you don't know what's going on, and you don't even have the resources to intuit what's going on. People are vile, especially to one another. Most of all when they think other people can't see or won't help. Oh, we talked about this one a long time ago, we didn't include it here. You need to keep dirt on everybody, but this is a more evolved form of that. You need to know what's going on with whom as best you can, who hates who, who's done what recently. So, before anything even happens, you can have an array of possibilities of the way people's issues or problems can turn out. That way, when one of these problems finally arises, you already know what's going on. And therefore, hopefully, you already know what to do about it. It's the same thing with the shitty nicknames thing. People are patternized. You're patternized too. Don't act like or believe you are above or outside the patterns. Learn them and learn how to use them. Part of that involves keeping yourself well appraised of the drama going on. Next one. Dressing well is important, and by extension, all appearances are important. I think there's another one that touches on appearances later, but we'll cover it mostly here. Dressing your body and your space the way you want it to be dressed is important because it's a preemptive volley against any attackers. Or if the people are supposed to be on your side, then a preemptive volley against their doubts or their shitty little criticisms or problems, any of those things. Nobody's really on your side, by the way. Fashion, design, and decoration impose on someone instantly without either of you needing to open your mouths. And it's even more potent if it's your space because they've walked in and gotten shot in the face. And this appearances thing is fascinating because it's both more important and less important than you'd think it'd be. As in, if someone hates your guts without even knowing you, or just people are hateful, awful little things, destructive little things, your dressing well won't change that. That's where it's less powerful. But where it's more powerful is it's not just a volley or like one sentence in an argument. Address it and then move on to the next and go back and forth. It's like suppressive fire. It becomes like suppressive fire. It's operating in your favor the entire time. It's not strong enough to change anything, but it will be tipping the odds in your favor every second of the encounter. Dress well, design well, decorate well. The 3Ds. Next one is assume you cannot trust or rely on anyone, including people who are allied with you and have in the past proven themselves to be trustworthy and reliable. At all times, you need to assume someone, for no reason, will backstab you or leave you hanging. You need contingencies. You need contingencies for your contingencies. Always. And if you're thinking about people dropping out, backstabbing you, well, if they fall through, then no number of contingencies will make this project work. Then you need to have contingencies for what will happen if that project doesn't work. I am telling you now, most people will not do anything they say they're going to do. When you think about executive direction, maybe you're thinking of high-minded things, changing the world for the better, meeting people who are great, building these monuments to everything good in the world. It's Do Lung Bridge. Anytime you feel like you might accomplish something lasting and good and people will all come together and do their best and everything will turn out well, watch the Do Lung Bridge clip. And furthermore, actually, your goal in all this is not to be a Captain Willard, because you don't have a way out of this. You can't just get back on your boat and get the fuck out of here. You need to be the Roach. And I wasn't planning this, but here's a quick little tip for how to do this. You start because you know. You need to go into any situation knowing something will get done, but it'll be a disaster. So here's what you do. You give subordinates some responsibility for things. It's hard to plan because sometimes things will work that you thought were probably not going to, but you give them responsibility in spheres you know will not work the way they're supposed to. And then, when things don't work and they don't know what they're doing because they are not career non-profit people, not a non-profit man, they go to you and you, even if you don't resolve it, because you probably, frankly, the way this shit works, it's not about capability. It's all about appearances. You're probably just as incapable of resolving the issue as they are, but you waggle your fingers and put a bow on it and then act like it's resolved. And then you're a demigod for a little while. And how do you learn that? This skill? Because people do it to you. That's the best shit, right? The best shit that you can learn is the shit people do to you. Try not to get mad at it. Try not to hate it. Certainly try not to change it because you won't. Learn it. Anyway, plan on not relying on people. Have your gunboat, lifeboat ready. The next point is kind of the same thing. Assume people will stab you in the back, but this is in relation to don't go out of your way too far to help anyone. If someone's drowning and you're on a boat and you need to lean over further than it's safe for you to grab them, either intentionally or unintentionally, the moment they get a hold of your hand, they will pull you down into the water with them. That's the way it works. There is not a situation in which that doesn't happen. And for the concessions, or to make concessions to some people, like I said, it's not always malicious, but that's always what happens. And a lot of the time it is malicious. So here's what you do when someone needs more help than it's safe for you to give. You make a visible effort, but your visible effort is putting together some system that will put the ball in their court. And people suck dick, so they won't do it. maybe 2 people out of 100 will do, in this situation, will do what you ask them to do. So what do you do then? Do the same thing again. You keep a paper trail, you keep the ball in their court. And if it becomes clear they won't let up, then you need to start figuring out what you can do or get other people to do even better that will not put you at risk. That's why volunteers are beautiful. And once again, it's all about appearances, it's all about selling it. Hey, here's the paper trail, here's what's going on. I'm pretty occupied with this. If you could have a look at this, I would appreciate it. And that's the other beautiful thing about volunteers is it's not like you're guaranteed to send this person to get pulled into the water, whatever the water is. More likely the volunteer sucks and won't follow up. So, usually that's where the problem ends. The volunteer doesn't follow up. But if it comes back to you, then you can say, well, it wasn't my bad, it was the volunteer's bad. And then you re-begin the process. You mire people like this in pits. And if it finally comes to the point something absolutely needs to be done, you pass the buck again, but instead of passing it down, you pass it up. Well, I don't know what's going on. What do you think needs to be done? And then you do that, and whatever happens, it's not your decision. When you're dealing with a lose situation, it's not about how to solve the problem. It's about damage reduction, especially to you. That's a non-professional life lesson also. When you realize you're in a situation, you can't figure out a solution, especially when another person is involved. Don't look at them as this poor person, oh God, I really need to help them. You need to hate them. Despise them for putting you in this situation, you fucking cunt. Doing this to me. And you need to look at them this way so there's no hesitation in your doing what you need to do not to be blown up alongside them. Because that's what they're trying to do. They don't want help, a person like this. What they want is not to blow up alone. Either they want to take someone down with them, or they want someone to die alongside them. Fuck you. Next one is a little social strat. You want someone to like you. You want them to feel smart and appreciated. You throw them a slow ball. You've made an observation about something. The explanation is very obvious to you, but ideally it maybe wouldn't be obvious to conventional reasoning, but I think on some level everybody understands conventional reasoning is stupid. I think everyone has a degree of resentment for conventional reasoning. Even Joe Dipshit. Even Joe Dipshit is just individual enough to resent baseline conventional reasoning on some level. So something that to the most basic conventional reasoning shouldn't be obvious, but is to anyone who can think outside it at all, you already know what or why this observation is, but when you're talking to them, you bring up this observation and go, this is a really interesting thing I've noticed, but I can't work out why it is. And then you let them explain it to you. Like you're 5, like you're a fucking idiot. They get to feel like an expert, and they get to feel like they've informed someone of something. People love that shit. Why do you think Twitter got so popular? Or anything is popular. Everybody wants to tell other people something else. What do you think I'm doing right now? But how do you not look stupid while you're doing this? It's a mixture of appearances, so you need to look like you know what you're talking about in a space dwelled in by somebody who knows what they're talking about, and you need to throw some fastballs. Not at them, like demanding they explain something to you that they can't, but demonstrating that you have the situation mostly under control. This is just something you thought about, but hadn't come up with an answer for. Oh, thank you for explaining it to me. I never thought of that. Maybe that's the way to frame it. They're helping you build a more complete picture. That's what you're trying to make them feel. Okay, and then the last one is related to appearances, but how do you develop an appearance that will help you? Smoke and mirrors alone, and in writing what Hemingway called tricks, won't get you anywhere. If you get really tried, and you will be really tried. It's effort and work ethic when you're putting together these appearances. And another way to look at it is it all happens at once, but separate and at different stages, but at the same time together. You're building everything slowly. What I mean is, don't dress like Uncle Junior day one. Day one, start off with a nice collared shirt or something, and begin developing your skills. As you develop your skills, think in a TE way, extroverted thinking way. What can I build into my environment that people can and will see, that will also make my job easier? I have a calendar up, I have my daily tasks up, I have my people, contacts spreadsheet up. On my filing cabinet, I have magnetic hooks. It's right next to my desk, and I keep pens hanging from the hooks. I keep my stapler, my hole puncher, everything I need hanging from the hooks. In fact, I am this anal, but it is also for appearances. I keep paper clips on the hooks. And people probably wouldn't look at it, but I'm willing to bet someone would look at my office and go, I bet this cocksucker has his paper clips on that stupid hook all lined up the same way. And then they look, and yes, in fact, every single paper clip hanging from that hook is lined up the exact same way. I design my environment to make my job easier, to make my work flow better. An additional beneficial consequence of this is it looks good. And it's like a mutual building thing. The more you look like someone who should be doing your job, the more you can dress like it, and then you build up and up and up. What I mean is, don't just dress well, or don't just make your environment, or try to make your environment look busy. Inject the ethic. Make your environment work for you. You need those appearances, but you can't be a poser, because if there's people will try you whether or not you're a poser. But if you are a poser, then it's going to look really bad if someone calls you and they're right. Okay. That should cover everything so far. Maybe we'll do another one of these in another 3 to 6 months. That's kind of the rate we've been making these videos at, right? To close out, I finally got that raise, got my first paycheck of it today, and I got that back pay approved. So I'll be paid what I was supposed to be paid originally. That was a little bit of a fight, but I got it. And I'm happy about that, but I feel a cold... My emotions are weird. I think I put it in the notes I'll post tonight, but Negative Harmony, Here Comes the Sun. The way that version of that song sounds is how I'm feeling right now. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to be hunkering down for an extended period in which things will be worse, not better. And I don't think consciously there is any reason to feel that way. That's the way I think I would explain it. None of this feels like a victory, even though they are victories and I am happy about them. It feels more like you've lost and you need to hunker down and be prepared for the consequences of a loss for an extended period. I don't know why I feel that way. And it's all hilarious because on my gut level these last 2 or 3 months I have known I will find a way to get to where I'm standing right now. In spite of everything. Don't know how I know it, don't know why I know it, but I know it. And now I'm standing here. And now I'm confronted with this feeling, and it's another thing that I don't know what or why, but something's coming, I guess, because that's what we're doing now. I don't know what's going on. Thinking back on it though, maybe I should draw tarot again, because regarding where to go, this is why I say whenever I do readings for people, not that I believe you should stake any of your life on the cards or look to them for strong advice, or even that I believe in tarot necessarily. But, all that aside, if I do a reading for you, I give you a PDF so you can hold on to it. I drew a spread for myself a while ago. It's come true. Or at least the part of it that stuck out to me and I was fixated on, I completely got the interpretation wrong. That's another thing to consider. But part of that spread stuck out to me. I knew it was important. I didn't know why. I got the initial interpretation wrong. I continue to get the interpretation wrong. And now that we've arrived, the spread makes sense. Fuck me. Maybe I need to draw another one. I want to get into a spot. My goal, I think, is to get into a spot I can do another magic dive. Mysticism is a constant background element in my life, but I haven't dived into it in some time. But we're rambling and we will cut it here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.